I thought for this one I would actually come up here and sort of show people what's actually the situation here with the P&O and the Cunard ships in anchor in Weymouth Bay. As you can see, it's almost Mediterranean. Quite an amazing sight, nevertheless, to see here off the Dorset Jurassic coast. And talking of the coast, where we're actually filming from, the cliffs are actually quite unstable and they are slowly sinking down into the sea, but we're okay at the moment, it's not a problem. But I'll show you some shots of that in a little while, and so you can see, you know, what the situation is here. But it's a very popular place for people to come and look at the ships, and they're constantly during the day, you know, we're seeing people walking up and down to come and view the ships from up here. It's been a little bit of a relief, I think, for the COVID lockdown, because when people aren't locked down, they can, in fact, quite easily socially distance up here at the top of the cliffs, but get some great views of the Cunard and P&O ships that have been anchored here for the last several weeks. Pretty well immediately behind me is the Britannia, and the Britannia is the current flagship of the P&O fleet. It's about, I think it's about 143,000 tonnes. It's about twice the size of the Aurora, which is actually just left. So this is a typical example of what's been going on here over the last few weeks. We have this seaside shuffle, and P&O's flagship Britannia has now slipped her anchor and is heading off. We're not quite sure where yet, but we will find out, I'm sure. But I suspect that she will be back, as they all have been, coming and going constantly. So here, this is Portland, and obviously that's one of the reasons why this anchorage is so good, because that is actually sheltering the ships from westerly and southwesterly winds. The cliffs and the cove over here are sheltering them from the easterly. So all in all, this is a really good place to actually anchor 6, sometimes 7 and cruise ships at one time. And one of the other good reasons for anchoring here is it's free.
I think the cruise sector is going to bounce back very, very quickly. We've already seen MSC start sailings out of Italy, mainly sticking around the Italian and Mediterranean close to. I think we can expect a similar model for the UK market. I presume ex-UK, out of Southampton, out of Dover, out of Tilbury will be the first to get sailing again. The ships are all ready, they're waiting for the government to give the okay. Itinerary wise, I think you'll see them stick relatively close to home, around UK's, maybe over to France if they reopen that one, up to the fjords around Iceland, and then possibly into a little bit of Spain and Portugal as well. Hopefully extending further, and by this time next year we'll be sailing fully back to the Med. I can't see cruising being massively different. I think cruisers that are experienced cruisers will see the difference. They're used to ships being very, very clean. They're used to being sanitized. They're used to having hand sanitizer when they go into restaurants. I think the main things we'll probably see are areas of ships where large amounts of people group together at the same time, i.e. restaurant times, the theatre shows. I think you can see the restaurants probably being more staggered. Maybe the first and second sitting model will be a thing of the past. They could use the buffet restaurant for an evening, so they get a third restaurant on the bigger ships for the set dining. So I think you'll see things like that. Where the shows are concerned, I think a different show every night may be something they'll look at. I think you'll get 2 or 3 main shows that will run 4 or 5 times each throughout the week at various times, and limiting the number of people that go into the theatre. So the theatres won't be massively full. I think the things that you'll see you'll recognise, because it's the things that are in place in towns, in hotels, in restaurants and bars that we're already experiencing. I think groups are going to have a fantastic time on a cruise ship, as they've always done in the past. Cruise ships are very, very adaptable. We're going to have to wait for social distancing rules to relax a little bit more to see the larger groups, but smaller groups under 30, you're not going to see any difference at all. You're still going to have a fantastic time. Your excursions are going to be sorted out, and the ports are going to be welcoming, the ships are going to be welcoming, and as I said, you're going to have a great time as a group. Smaller groups first. I think the larger groups are going to have to wait for restrictions to be lifted. I think you're going to see some changes within the cruising industry. I think all the cruise lines are going to look at their hardware. There's probably some older ships that were planned to be coming towards the end of their life in the next 24 to 36 months. That could be brought forward. We've already seen P&O announce they're getting rid of one of their ships, but that is being replaced by the Iona that was supposed to start sailing this year, which obviously is going to sail next year, and another new addition to the fleet coming in the next 2 years. So capacity, they're going up, but they are getting rid of one of their older ships. Fred Olsen, similar lines. They're getting rid of 2 of their ships, but they're replacing those 2 ships with 2 fantastic new ships they've just bought from Holland America, which are going to be named the Bolette and the Borealis. And really, really exciting. Anybody's currently booked on Fred Olsen, don't worry, because the 2 new ships are taking over the exact itineraries that the ships that are going are leaving. So one's going to sail out of Dover, one's going to sail, I think, out of North, but I could be wrong on that. I think long term for cruising is rosy. It's sunny, it's a fantastic product. It's always adapted to change. I think moving forward, it's going to become even more popular. They had some bad press at the beginning of this, but so did a lot of things. It was an unknown situation. But moving forward, cruise ships will adapt to the situation better than hotels. It's going to be safer than going to hotels, going to hotel resorts. It's going to be cleaner, as it always has been. The itineraries are still going to be there. Your experience is going to be amazing moving forward. I think the cruise lines are investing in new hardware all the time. There's new ships coming, both on the ocean, and we mustn't, of course, forget river. River is growing. It's a growing market, and that's going to continue to grow as the rivers come back and we're able to go on there. And of course, rivers fantastic for smaller groups. They're 80 cabins. They're in port every day. It's a fantastic experience. So those will just grow. We're going to see more rivers coming on, more ports, more destinations. I think we also see more immersive destinations as well, maybe moving away from some of the city-based cruises to some of the more interesting places where we've got our freer space. So people and groups that want to go and see the countryside, see some of the natural wonders of the world. I think ships are going to embrace that moving forward. So watch this space for, I think, what will be amazing itineraries coming in the next 4 or 5 years. Probably even some of them starting next year.